Executive Summary. The reopening of schools this fall marks a pivotal turning point for the U.S. education system. Thanks to a $122 billion infusion of federal stimulus funds and many important lessons learned in recent times, educators, advocates, and community leaders have unprecedented opportunities to close the school-to-prison pipeline and to keep students in school and on track for future success. However, given the widespread disconnection, learning loss, and tragedy American children suffered during the pandemic, the moment will also be fraught with pitfalls, enormous education and youth development challenges. Since the COVID pandemic began in March 2020, U.S. school children's pace of learning has slowed considerably, and millions of children have become disengaged from school. The damage has been especially acute for Black and Latin students, and for those in low-income households, English language learners, and children with disabilities. The pandemic has created or worsened mental health problems for a substantial share of adolescents, and it has interrupted teenage children's healthy adolescent development. As a result, schools will likely see substantially elevated behavior and attendance problems in the coming school year. Even before the pandemic, U.S. schools employed many problematic practices that push young people out of school and sometimes into the justice system, and that perpetuated severe disparities and left many students behind. Too many police officers stationed inside schools. Despite evidence that school-based police tend to increase counterproductive arrests for low-level offenses but do not protect public safety. Not enough counselors or other mental health professionals. Despite evidence that, unlike police officers, their presence does promote safety and enhance student success. Counterproductive over-reliance on arrests and suspensions expulsions to address student misbehavior. Despite overwhelming evidence that getting arrested or suspended seriously harms young people's futures, glaring disparities in arrests and suspensions, with children of color as well as those with disabilities far more likely to be arrested at school or suspended, absent a concerted effort to reject over-policing of public schools, many young people could be thrust quickly into the justice system through unwarranted school arrests. Also, if schools sustain their over-reliance on exclusionary discipline and fail to re-engage and support vulnerable students, many more youths will exit school prematurely, heightening their likelihood of future arrests. These failures would exacerbate racial and ethnic disparities and deepen the difficulties faced by children with special educational needs, and those living in poverty, the very children who have suffered most during the pandemic. An unprecedented opportunity. While the dangers facing the U.S. education system are daunting, the current moment is even more noteworthy for the immense opportunities available to schools and communities nationwide. Combined with the $68 billion allocated to public schools in the COVID stimulus laws enacted in 2020, the $122 billion included in the American Rescue Plan represent the largest infusion of federal funding for elementary and secondary education in U.S. history. If schools and communities invest these resources wisely and build on the emerging momentum to reject counterproductive zero-tolerance policies, they can both foster success among returning students and engineer an overdue shift away from ineffective and inequitable practices that have long plagued our education and justice systems.